food is never just food. Food is just the appetizer. Connection is the multi-course meal we're actually sitting down for. So pull up a chair. You're at the table with us. Pyet, welcome to Bitefully. This podcast is all about food as a living archive. But before we get started, and before I start with my most important question of the day, do me a solid and introduce yourself to everyone watching.
Okay, my name is Chef Pyet DeSpain Hernandez, newlywed. I am first winner of Next Level Chef, first Native American and Mexican American woman to win a televised cooking competition, which is crazy. Season 1 winner of Next Level Chef, appeared on a lot of different Food Network competitions, judged a few shows. I'm also an author of a cookbook called Rooted in Fire, which celebrates Native American and Mexican fusion cuisine. Also executive producer and host of a PBS TV cooking traveling series called Spirit Plate. And all while doing all of that, I am a food activist for sustainable and sovereign food systems for Indigenous food or Indigenous people.
You inspire me in so many ways because you're doing what I wish I was doing at your age. And my God, girl, like you are like taking the world by storm. And I'm here for it because like, how is it that you are the first like Indigenous woman to be the winner of a televised cooking competition? I was the first Latina to have ever won MasterChef, and still, right? Like, is it the same for you?
Yeah.
And still, right? Like, I won MasterChef in 2015. It's now 2026, 11 years later, and nobody has dethroned me. And I'm like, please dethrone me. Truly, like, there shouldn't be firsts anymore, in my opinion.
Know.
Why do we still have so many firsts?
Well, I know for sure the reason why you don't see many Indigenous or Native American people on these competitions is just because the work that we're rooted in, it's not like in this kind of world of competitions. Our food is not meant to be like fast and quick and like for the show. It's like low and slow. There's a lot of heritage, a lot of sacredness that goes into our food, and a lot of our people are still trying to figure out what that is as well. We're coming together as a community and really helping one another, which is the work that I'm rooted in, that I do regularly. But the reason why I don't see many Indigenous people on these cooking competitions is because A, they haven't been given the opportunity, or the work that they're rooted in is revolved in a different environment. And so these kind of opportunities don't really, pop up as often. Also, I feel as though we're having a moment as like Indigenous people in media right now where everyone is like, oh, who's the token Indian? Who's the token Native that's going to be on the show this season? And I've been kind of put in those situations where I'm like, I don't really want to play into that because I don't get to cook the food that I'm actually very passionate about. I have to like go with, this is super quick and easy, and like let me do something that doesn't feel authentic to me. But I'm grateful for those opportunities nonetheless. And we just recently had the first Chopped All Indigenous cast. Okay, thank you Chopped for doing that for us, where I got to be a judge, and that in itself was just such a monumental moment. So I'm hoping that we do see more of that. If there isn't that voice and then the visibility dwindles away, like what are we doing for the rest of our people that are saying, we don't belong in those spaces? It's like, no, we do. We just have to, someone has to be the person to, muster up the courage and be that representation, which is heavy. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So at Bitefully, we explore your food memory archive. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do one thing. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask you to think of the best meal you've ever had.
Oh, this is hard. OMG. Okay.
Close your eyes.
Okay. Best meal I've ever had. Let me try to think about
you have
that.
ever had. Who made it?
Oh my gosh.
And what
You're going
was
to
it?
cry when I say this. Okay. Best meal I've ever had. Man. Okay. Let me think about it. Is my wedding. I'm not kidding. Okay. My wedding. You cooked it. I remember, I think about it, and the meal is more than just like the flavor. It's the experience. And till this day, it's been a couple weeks now, like everyone that we see has like, that was the best meal I've ever had. That was the best wedding I've ever been to. And that was by far, like easily hands down the best day for me and Eric, my husband.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there at that table And me and Eric were just like, oh my gosh, like we made the best decision. We revolved our entire wedding around that meal. Let me just tell you.
I know.
Eric was like,
the pressure was on.
She couldn't just go to a regular freaking venue. No, we had to like do it all ourselves. And I was like, listen, it's because the meal had to be the moment. And like you rose to the occasion. Those tortillas. Oh my gosh. The meat, the chimichurri with the steak, everything on the plate was so good. And the one regret I have was not getting my own plate because Eric and I
because you guys shared. Yeah.
I was like, we should have got 2 plates. But I would say, that was the best meal. And I think it was also because obviously the food was incredible.
Yeah.
But it was just the moment, like the energy in the room. There was just so much going on, and we looked around and people were just like freaking out over their food, and everyone was just so like digging in, and I was like, that's when I knew like that's easily for me was the best meal. I'm gonna remember that meal for the rest of my life.
That is so meaningful, dude. The reason why I asked this question is because I always tell people that like the most memorable meal people will always remember is never at the hands of a chef. It's always at the hands of like somebody they love, right?
Yeah.
So the one caveat I think in this case is I love you so much. You know this. You're like one of my good friends, and I wanted to make this so special. Like I went to like 13 different places for different ingredients. The tortillas were from a different state. The chiles were from like flown in. Like just the level of care for literally every ingredient was like so important to me. You and I both know this. We've been to so many events, so many weddings. The food somehow seems like the afterthought. Like,
right?
Like it's just like, and I'm like, how? Like, you know, and or you'll go to a wedding and you'll eat before you go to the wedding because you know the food's gonna be crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we got so many hookups. Like we're so lucky to and be so blessed. I mean, our pigs were donated.
Dude.
You know, like these are like farm raised pigs, like that were finished with like acorns and just like everything.
And we could tell. We could tell that much love and thought went into it because like I said, I'm not kidding. Like everyone is like the food was the most incredible thing I've ever had. And when I think about my childhood, like obviously food is always at the forefront for me because I grew up with family members that owned restaurants. I have many amazing food memories, and everyone on my dad's side loves cooking, amazing chefs, like amazing cooks. I wouldn't call them chefs, but they call themselves cooks, you know? And then on my mom's side, there's not that many people I know that like to cook, you know? And I grew up with my mom, like my mom being my main, parent in my household. And she was not a cook. She would kind of just put together struggle meals or like made something out of nothing, which in itself is a talent and it's a skill set.
Girl.
But it wasn't like, oh my gosh, Mom, this is the best meal I've ever had. It was just like, oh, this is what we have. But I mean, our wedding was it was just unmatchable. Aww. Yeah, it was so great. Yeah, it was amazing. And the presentation, it was the whole experience.
Yeah.
And Eric's mom, she said, I felt like I was on a TV show. Like this door opened, this huge gate, and everyone was like,
big reveal,
clapping and cheering. And they were like, wow, this is such an experience. And so for me, I loved at the core of what I do, the essence of Pyet is I love to host. I love to provide an experience, and that's why I was like, the meal has to be the moment. And it surpassed my expectations and everyone else's expectations. So yes, easily, hands down,
the moment became the memory.
It was.
I love it. You mentioned struggle meals. Indigenous cooking has been kind of tied to that, specifically because of what's been done to Indigenous communities, populations, with the scarcity of food, of what food is available. Can you explain that a little bit for people who don't understand that?
Definitely. A big part of the erasure of Native American people in America was to attack our food systems because they had a hard time assimilating us into their colonized way of life. And a big part of that was, okay, if we can't get them to assimilate, we can't get them to do what we want them to do, what's the next step? The next step would be to attack our food systems. And that quite literally is what happened, is they attacked our food systems. The bison, if anyone knows the history of the bison at this point, late 1800s was nearly extinct. We went from like 3 million bison that used to roam freely on these lands, all the way down to just like a few hundred, and then it dwindled down to just like a handful of bison.
Oh my goodness.
And so now there's a lot of conservation laws that are in place to protect the bison because it was a once extinct animal, nearly extinct. But when we think about our food systems as Indigenous people, a lot of that has been lost over the years because of that erasure, because of the displacement of peoples. You're talking about like fields of and lots of farming that had been burnt up because colonizers came in and just wanted to completely decimate the indigenous people and their lifestyles and their food waste, because that's the one way that they could control us, is like if we take away their food and their language, their culture, then we can save the man, kill the Indian. That's literally the slogan.
You're kidding me.
That's literally the slogan, yeah, that was used. It's like, save the man, kill the Indian. And the Indian is our way of life. It's our culture. And if you think about the United States, it's huge. You know, there's over 575 now federally recognized tribes, but even before the recognized ones, there are still tribes out there that haven't been federally recognized, and we all had our own language at one point. Just like, you know, you go to Mexico. There's different indigenous languages, but also dialects and all things. But in America at that time, they had a lot of different languages, and so now they're like, okay, well, let's get rid of their food systems, and let's give them food commodities once we do put them on reservations, because we have to feed them. And at that point, that's when you have things like fry bread that was created, which everyone thinks is our traditional foods. It is not. It was literally created out of survival. Wow. You're talking about lard, flour, salt, sugar. Like, yeah, that's not a complete meal. That's no, even based on this like kind of arbitrary FDA pyramid, that's still not sustainable. No, not at all. So fry bread was created, and then we still have it, you know, within our food system now, our cuisine, as you could say. But a lot of indigenous folks are now like, hey, you know what? This is actually not our food. Yeah. Like, this is what was created because they tried to get rid of us. And now that we're here, we're surviving. And there's a lot of our indigenous heirloom seeds that have been uncovered and saved over the years. And so we have a lot of tribal nations that are now implementing these sovereign food systems in their own communities, these community gardens, and teaching their tribes about, hey, these are our traditional foods, and we want to revert back to this, and we want to rematriarch these seeds and bring them back, and let's survive off of these instead of what this other food system is. And so it's a movement. It's a huge movement. We call it, our food sovereignty movement as indigenous people. A lot of tribes across the U.S. are doing it and are re-implementing not just the food, but the language, the way of life. There's a lot of programs in place that the tribes are actually implementing, and we obviously lost a lot of funding across our tribal nations this year and last year, but they're doing what they can to bring back the food waste. And there's some tribes that had been affected earlier than others because of just like the progression of the colonization across the United States. So you have people that are on the West Coast, northern West Coast, that still have a lot of their culture intact because they were the last to be contacted. But you have all of these East Coast tribes that lost a lot because they were the first contact tribes. But everyone, across the board, as far as tribal nations, they have their own story and their own issues, but food sovereignty is at the core of it, and they really want to bring back that education and that connection. I think ultimately that's what it, at its core, comes back to, right, is kind of these endemic ingredients that were already here, that, to your point, kind of just got literally just decimated. And for example, whenever I was recording Taste of the Nation, where I explored food from on both sides of the border from San Diego to Texas, I stopped at the Tono O'odham Nation, and they were doing the same thing with this red specific wheat. And I learned about so many other things, like these little, like, they were like buds from like a cholla buds. Yes. And I was like, what is this? Like, I've never heard of this. But even some of the conversations with you where you've made me like second guess, and I'm like, wait a second, you're right. And you're like, you're Mexican. You are also indigenous to this land. Like, you have to remember that even though there are borders here, you are indigenous. And like, I still have, like, I'm getting chills. I got goosebumps right now too. Because you were the first person to ever tell me that. Yeah. And I swear to you, I was like, what? Like, it was just like one of those like realizations. And I did this like meditation where it was like a past life regression. I was like exploring a very traumatic event in my life. The guide says to me, think of a spirit animal or a person or somebody that can make you feel safe. And what showed up was this huge, like almost like 12 feet tall buck, right? Gosh. And that's what shows up. And I'm like this little girl that's like 7 years old, tiny little girl, not afraid of this huge buck that shows up. So then you're going to love this story. So then back up, I start doing research, and my daughter go to Mexico City,
And we start going through like the regions, and where my family is from Mazatlan, Sinaloa. And it is literally like the animal from Sinaloa is the deer.
Wow.
My mind was like blown, and I was like, wait, what? Felt like I was like almost like more connected to like where my family was like came from, you know? And anyway, they talked about how like it was literally one of the proteins that we like literally lived off of, right? Deer because of the mountains and everything. And so it's always been really interesting to me, because then whenever I have venison or something like that, I'm like, oh, this is so good. Like it's just like it's one of my favorite proteins, and my mom's always been like, why?
Yeah.
I don't get it, because we're like coastal people, right? So like fish and shrimp and all these things are like very common, especially in Mazatlan where aguachile was invented. But now there's like this like innate connectedness to like deer, where my family comes from, like all of these things that I'm just like, this is wild.
Yeah.
And so anyway, just going back to kind of this idea of like bison and like how all of this colonization happens, because for example, with fry bread, it was flour and lard and blah, blah, blah. Same thing is with flour tortillas that we love and we consider so Mexican, right?
I know.
But wheat, like that kind of wheat did not exist. White wheat did not exist here.
It didn't.
It's not endemic to Mexico, right? Corn is, which is why, and like this is something that like and you'll understand this so well, because in food pathways, like you start to realize that your body can't even process certain things. Like it's not that
it's
like
genetics.
It's
like
literally genetics.
Yeah,
when I eat corn tortillas, I feel great. The moment I eat a flour tortilla, even though they're my favorite, like I love them, right? Because I grew up with them. But like my body just doesn't do well with them. My body can't process them. But corn all day, every day. Like,
yeah.
I'm perfect. Like my sugar is stable. Like I can process it. It's like so interesting to me.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. There's also a lot of studies happening around taste memory. There's a lot of research now that kind of coincides with what you are consuming as a mother and like what your child is in your womb tasting or being fed off of.
Okay.
And after you give birth, like your child is more receptive to those foods that you're eating. So they try to explain to mothers, like, eat your traditional foods while you're pregnant. Even if it wasn't something that you was raised on, you do the research, you find out you're from a specific region, your family's from somewhere, eat those foods while your baby's in the womb. And your baby's going to be more healthy and also receptive to wanting and having the taste and the craving for those foods when they're children, rather than wanting all the other crap that's on the shelves. And a big part about, being Indigenous is the connection to the land, like that taste memory, because with the connection with the food and with knowing like I feel better when I eat these things, it's more than just like a health thing. It's a mind, body, spirit thing as well. And it's that connection that you have with the land, with those teachings. With those teachings come a whole other world of connection with Mother Earth and like everything in harmony and living in balance with one another. And so when people are like, oh, like I can't drink milk. And I'm like, do you want me to go down a rabbit hole right now and explain to you why you're lactose? And then when I tell them, it's like, I never thought about that. And like, yeah, my family is from here and that's why I'm lactose. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot that goes into the food that we eat and that we are receptive to and things that our bodies are rejecting. Yeah. And yeah, I love the fact that you had that experience with the buck, because that's very powerful, and that's like the entry, that's the door of like your ancestors saying like, don't forget about this side. You're Mexican, but we know Mexico is a modge podge, just like America, of colonizers and the influences that have come into the cuisine, and it's changed a lot over the years. So our ancestors and those very innate spiritual connections that we have are coming forward, and they're saying, hey, don't forget about us, because the moment that you do, who's going to continue to tell those stories and teach your daughter about the connection that she has now with venison?
You use the word rooted a lot today.
Yeah.
Your book is called Rooted. Is that related to like your Indigenous culture, do you think? Like that concept of rooted, or is that rooted in kind of how you feel your life has evolved?
I would say my life has always felt not rooted. As a child, like I always felt like we were uprooted and we moved around a lot, and just like kind of knowing, like having, like when I was a child, we moved place to place all the time. Like I can't remember, I think the first year I was actually out of school for almost a full school year. I was in 5th grade. And I was really excited about oh, I'm actually going to have a school book yearbook this year. And then right before it happened, I moved again. And then it was like, okay, 8th grade is going to be the year that I get my first yearbook. And then that was 8th grade was the first year I'd ever been in one school for an entire year. We just had a very interesting upbringing, and my mom was kind of like figuring out what to do as a single mother of 3 kids.
Was this in Los Angeles?
This is in California, in Kansas.
Okay.
My mom was a mother of 4, but one of my older brother, he lived with his dad. But so my mom had 3 kids to be responsible for, and we were just always moving around. It was very unstable. And so now that as an adult, I've been able to obviously create my own path and create a beautiful life that I live and I love. Being rooted is so important to me because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And so when I reflect on my life, you know, as the years have gone by, of like, where do I want to do? And I just like, I want to feel so solid in something that no matter where I go, like it's there.
Yeah.
And that is my career. It's more than just like, oh, I'm a chef in the kitchen, I'm cooking. It's like every aspect of my life is rooted in the things that are most important to me, which is my family, my friends, my culture, and then also the teachings in which all of that, you know, brings to me. So when I say rooted, it's the groundedness, and it's also the actual root of everything that I do.
I was on your book tour. I hosted a little panel with you where we talked about your book and we talked about Rooted in Fire. And you talked about how this book also helped you to kind of reconnect with some of your Indigenous roots, some of your Mexican roots, and some of those ingredients, and really like dig deep and dive deep.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Growing up multicultural, a big part of my story is just feeling like I was always battling against, just trying to fit in, trying to figure out where I fit in. My mom was adopted, and she found her biological parents when she was pregnant with me. So I got to be born to this beautiful chapter of her life. And then my dad is Mexican-American. His dad is Mexican, but we don't know that man. And the woman that raised him is a white woman who speaks fluent Spanish. All of her baby daddies are Mexican, and she very much so lived the culture. My grandmother was teaching all the dances. She's always cooking the food. And as I got older, I started like really asking these questions, like, how did you end up like this? For me and my story, I felt a lot of insecurity because of being multicultural, not really feeling like I was fully connected in that rootedness, but also like, I'm just like, I know I'm Mexican, but like from where and from who and like from what and like what is my tie? But this book, writing these stories about myself, it brought up like those insecurities that I'm like, you know, I the way I move through life, the way I navigate life is when people meet me, they're like, oh my gosh, she's so confident. She's so like empowering, and she's this and she's that. And I'm like, I've had to be that my entire life. And I'm sure you understand that too. It's like, I've had to put on the mask. I grew up in an environment where in order to be respected, you had to be feared. And that I just kind of walked around with this chip on my shoulder. Like I had something to prove in every room I walked into. So people always saw this like confidence.
Yeah.
But inside I was dealing with a lot of like turmoil, like inner turmoil, and just, questioning myself a lot, and just like where I belonged and what does authenticity mean to me.
Yeah.
And this book really allowed me to dive into that, because first when I wanted to write this, when I was starting to write a book, I just wanted to be educational. I was like, let's talk about, let me just educate people on what Indigenous foods are, and let me bring out the grocery list of like what all those things are, and how they're connected, and then how those things are connected to Mexico, and
so
how
explaining
everything.
it.
So yeah, it was more educational explanation, and then the publishers were like, "Pyet, we need to know about you," and I was like, oh, you want to know about me? They're like, you're the author and you're the moment. Let's hear more stories about you. So then the whole entire narrative changed, and it became like a memoir of like, okay, well, let me explain to people, because how else can people understand the work that I do if they don't understand who I am and where I come from?
Yeah.
So it became a memoir, a lot of reconnecting with those food moments as a child, and just figuring out like why I'm so passionate about the things I'm passionate about, why I'm so rooted in my culture. And I'm like, let me explain it to people. So this book was like it was like therapy. And then the stories of the food came along with it. One of my favorite chapters, which is so funny, is actually the last chapter of the book and leading into the pantry.
Okay.
And the pantry is usually like skimmed over. People are just like, anyways, let me get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, the pantry was really fun because I got to share a lot of knowledge about just little like fun facts about some ingredients. And like the avocado, I learned that it used to be an aphrodisiac for the Aztecs, because they thought, oh, this avocado is shaped like the male testicle.
Correct.
And so we should have the women and the men eating this to become more fertile.
Yep.
Everyone knows what avocado is, but how do we put some more information out there that's fun? So the education is still there. It's still fun. And then, of course, the last book, which was Celebrating the Seasons, really goes into depth about not just eating with the seasons, but like bringing meaning back to those conversations we're having around specific times of the year. And also seasonal depression is a thing. How are we caring for ourselves during that time of the year? And that was my favorite chapter to put together.
Definitely for me, that was a really cool part of your book. But I do have to agree with, the editors. I'm super glad that they pushed you in the direction of like telling your story, because I think so often the problem with the way we are portrayed and tokenized is that it is just give me a laundry list of ingredients and tell me what they are so that I know what I'm looking at, or if I can find it, or where can I find it. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I've had that argument with editors on my most recent cookbook. If an Italian person doesn't need to explain this ingredient, like, why do I?
Yeah.
Like, it's so frustrating. And that is even now, right? With as many Mexican cookbooks as are out there, like I'm still having to explain the difference between a Oaxacan sour cream and why you can't just swap it with the regular sour cream.
Right.
I get the chola in me wants to come out. I'm like, you want to tokenize me? Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on, let me take off.
Take your ring.
How did cooking become healing for you? Because you specifically talked about, how with the book, it was therapy, right? And you and I both know, because we know this full well, food can heal, not just your body, not just your physical body, but your mind, your soul, your heart, whether it was through the book or just through your own exploration of your foods and of also balancing, right? Like these two types of cuisines and in a way, you're very much like me, right? Where it's like, ni de aquí, ni de allá. You're not from here or from there. You're from both places. And that dualism is also something that can need healing sometimes, because to your point, we start to think like there's like this imposter in us.
For me, growing up on a reservation, I was wrapped up in this world of community and connection. Yeah. And at every ceremony, there were like ceremony foods, quote unquote ceremony foods, which are traditional foods, which should be eaten every day, not just for the celebrations and the ceremony. There are some things, of course, like that are special that should be kept sacred and for those very special specific time frames.
Right.
But the more that I evolved as a chef, I was, in the beginning of my career, I was just focused on nutrition, wellness, health, helping people get healthy. I've always been a really big health person. Like I grew up playing sports and I loved eating whole, good foods. Yeah. So I started my career that way, really focused on that. And then when I moved to California and to LA, then I got into all the fad diets. I've been a private chef for now 11 years. All my clients were eating like paleo this or keto that. And so then I went and did all my research. I started eating that, so that way I could completely know what their body needed. Yeah. So I was putting my own body through these ups and downs and figuring out like, okay, where's the balance? Because how am I going to give my clients food that isn't like completely nurturing them, satisfying our cravings? I went through all of these different transitions, and then finally I kind of hit a rock bottom. Like, this is terrible. I'm like, I hate doing this. I do not feel connected to the food that I'm cooking. And that's when I decided to make this pivot and this change. And so I'm like, to be specific, I remember hearing this very famous chef and hearing him talking about his Nana's tomato sauce. you know, and like these ingredients and like these stories. Oh, my nana, she used to have this tomato plant in the back of her yard, and we would go pick the tomatoes and we would do this, that. And the whole process just sounds so romantic. I asked myself, like, well, I'm a chef. Like, what story do I have that's like that? And I'm like, I ain't got one. You know, like my family didn't grow their own vegetables. Like, we grew up in a city or on the res, and it's like struggle meals, like figure it out, like put 2 and 2 together and make something happen. And then I went to my Mexican side of the family, which everything was about food. And then the romance, that's where the romance lived, is like my family being so passionate about the chiles that they use and how long did they braise it and how long was it roasted and how many times did they baste it. And like, so there was like this like interesting intersection for myself. And I'm like, you know, I do have those stories. They just don't look the same and they don't sound the same as these other stories. And so my healing through the food came through the storytelling. And we all know, if you're a foodie person, you want to hear the story.
Yep.
You want to hear, where does it come from? How was it basted? How many times did you baste it? How many hours of marination did this go through? You know, they want to know. And I'm like, oh, I do have those stories. So that's where the connection to the food and the storytelling really came into play for me. And then with that came a lot of healing, because then I was able to really connect. And when I decided to lean into that and say, okay, you know, I want to cook food that represents myself and represents my story. And then people got really interested. And I was like, in the beginning, I was like, nobody wants to hear about Native American food. And everyone's like, Mexican food's all the same. But then once you like really learn about it, you realize it ain't. There's actually so much beauty behind our ingredients and our stories. And so that's where the healing came. It's more than just the physical, the nutrition, the health. It's really about that spiritual connection.
We've talked about a lot of really serious things. Let's have some unserious fun, yes? What is the pettiest food opinion you have?
Ground beef tacos.
What? You love them?
No.
Oh. I was like, wait.
I don't love them. I can't do
You can't
it.
do it.
Don't ever. I don't know why people are still making ground beef tacos. I thought we've evolved from that. I feel like that's petty to me. I don't know. Also, like hard shell. Some places I know in Mexico are hard shell people, but I'm like, don't do it. I don't know.
Usually they're toasted over fire though. They're not.
That's different. Yeah, it's not like
not fried, not deep fried.
But my mother.
No Taco Bell, huh?
No, I mean, it's like if you're like drunk, sure, you know, it tastes really good, but also like, no, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's any other petty food trends that I'm like, it's gonna be a nah for me, dog.
It's gonna be a nah for me, dog. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I am just like, it's fine, you know.
All right, let's take it back. Pyet, 7 years old, opens your fridge right now. They look inside. What would they be surprised to see?
They'd be like, damn, she's rich.
What do you have?
She's got fresh veggies?
Oh,
not everything is canned? Wow, this is amazing.
I love that.
I know this is supposed to be lighthearted, but wow, that was kind of sad. No, I'm just kidding.
know.
I would definitely say be surprised would be probably like there's no like snacky foods in our house. Everything has to be cooked, really. I'm one of those friends, don't come to my house if you're trying to just snack, because I ain't got it.
You're like, when I walk into my kitchen, the only thing I'm going to find that's a snack is myself.
Yeah. But my poor husband is like, he's a snacker, and me, I'm like, there's all whole ingredients, veggies, and like.
Oh, you're so good.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I always feel terrible about myself every time I watch her social media, because she'll have like to-go meals for when she's flying, and I'm like, God, I really got to be better.
Listen, I know everyone actually is like, either they love it or they hate it. They're just like, just eat the burger. And I'm like, listen, the reason why I'm this way is because I ate too many burgers and it made me feel disgusting. So I'm like, I have to do this. But I see myself as an athlete almost. Like, in order for me to like perform, because the work I do is more than just, let me go cook you something. It's like, I put my heart, my soul, my brain, my mind, my emotion, everything goes into it. I got to feel tip top and shape and good in order to articulate what I need to articulate. Because the way I see myself is a channel. Like, I'm going to get woo-woo on you real quick.
Okay.
But like, I'm always like, Creator, let me be a vessel of like your light, your truth, and whatever it is like I say to these people.
Okay.
And so I got to take care of myself. And so I eat the way that I do to stay in that state of, and I don't drink a lot. every now and then. But I went sober for about a year, and it was the best decision I could have ever made. And now I regularly practice sobriety just because I want to be able to have that connection and just be really in tune with myself. Yeah. I'm that woo-woo girl, I guess. My 7-year-old self,
like,
my 7-year-old self would be like surprised that I'm a woo-woo girl. So
I'm here for that though. I don't like to say we grew up poor, because poor is not a good word in general in my book.
Our way of life was just different then.
Yeah. I grew up I grew up selling tortillas to our neighbors, and my mom always jokes, she's like, aren't you embarrassed to share that story? I'm like, absolutely not.
No.
Like, people need to know where we come from, and it was what we had to do to make ends meet so that we could maybe have meat on the plate that week. I think when you grow up that way, you're right. I mean, just yesterday I was at a friend's who was like, oh, your birthday just passed, let's celebrate you. And he brings out caviar. And I have moments, I'm not joking, I have moments where I'm like, what is my life?
Yeah.
Do you ever have those moments?
All the time.
Like, what is our life?
I'm like,
how, like, from where we were to where we are now, what is our life?
Crazy.
And crazy, food changed our lives.
This is so true. Yeah, it did. And my husband said that his friend asked him, what was it about Pyet that made you know that she was the one? It was because she knew how to cook, and you're like, oh yeah, I got a girl that can cook. And he was like, no, it was her mindset. And she just happened to choose food. Like, no matter what she would have done, she would have been good at, but she chose food. And I thought about that, and I'm like, did I choose it or did it choose me? Because I tried to go the other routes. I went to the corporate job. I worked in the automotive industry before I became a full-time chef. I was like making bank, doing my thing, but it was that lack of like connection. I'm just like, well, what is my life? I don't feel connected to the work I'm doing. The reason why I chose food is because of that connection, of like, food is life-changing. It's life-changing when you don't have it, and it's life-changing when you do have it.
Woo!
And so I just remember like those moments being at the dinner table and feeling, and there's a story in my cookbook about my grandfather and I. My grandfather was like the best man I've ever known my entire life to this day. And he was just so special. And he would sit down. He's from Guanajuato, Mexico. This is the man that actually adopted my mother. So my mom was adopted by a Mexican man, and he's the one that helped raise me. And he would put me at the table and say, okay, mija, like, your job is to clean the beans. And I thought I had the most important job in the world, because I had to make sure there was no rocks in there. No one was going to break their teeth on my watch. And it was just those little moments of like, the food somehow was there, even like the most like tiny little jobs, and I think those were the moments I was like, I think like food is for me, because that's where I feel the most safe, you know. And so food changed our lives, and it brought us together. Look at literally us.
For our last bite, my last question for you is, if we were all coming to your house after this,
yes.
What would you feed us and why?
Okay, I would definitely feed you wild rice, my wild rice with roasted poblanos and mushrooms, and then finish it with some duck fat.
Okay.
So that's one of my favorites. I would also probably do something with bison steaks, bison chili Colorado, like some kind of bison situation. Or I would make you some duck carnitas.
Oh.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, and then I would make Eric make guac, because he's our guac guy in the family. Aficionado? Yeah, he's good at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so ready. Let's go. Just kidding.
Come on.
Thank you so much for joining me on Bitefully. I think I'm most grateful, not just for you being here, but for having really candid and honest conversations around things that not only are impacting Americans right now, but specifically our Indigenous populations and their foodways, and how we really could be doing a lot more to help these populations in terms of visibility, in terms of accessibility to food and to water, and to so many other things that are really affecting this population. And not just because food changes lives, because food changes in good and bad ways, like you said. But because food is our perfect opportunity to sit at the table, to have conversations, like I'm sure we've had conversations with our families, and have real, honest conversations around food, which is really what we should be having, because a lot of them are rooted in not just memories, but our culture. So thank you so much for sharing your story with me.
Yes, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.